Welcome to Overcome Podcast. In today's episode, I'm talking with Josh Bryant, the author of the Jailhouse Strong book series, among many other books, ISSA, Certified, Coach, and former powerlifter. Josh has tremendous experience in strength and conditional training and also mental toughness. So let's talk about all those subjects in today's episode. Josh Bryant, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for joining the Overcome podcast. Appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks for having me on, Yuri. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's I was really looking forward to this because the whole intent of this podcast was really to help me to cope and also help other people that are going through some struggles with injury and everything. But you have a very interesting perspective on all that because I'm actually in chapter 5, I think, of your Grounded in Gratitude, a call to action book.
Awesome.
A lot of people know you for the Jailhouse series, which are amazing series, and there's a lot of great books out there. But I would say if you have time, check it out. Grounded in Gratitude is amazing. It's a really good book. It lays down a different perspective, simple things that makes a big difference. And you released that book in 2018, right?
Right.
Yeah, and one of the things that you emphasize a lot on that book, which was very important to me during this rehab, and still is because I'm still in rehab mode, is that when we are establishing our vision to what we want to achieve, we need to be careful even with the words that we use. And you give the example of the trash can, right?
Right.
You never say my trash, right? So I love that example. What is the rationale? What is the rationale behind that?
Garbage.
Yeah, what is the rationale behind that, Josh?
Well, you don't claim ownership over garbage. You're gonna, people say things like my problem instead of the problem. You need this, so you want to take ownership over good things, and then obviously you take out the trash, not take out my trash.
Yeah.
So anything positive, if you can subconsciously say that you're taking ownership over it, anything that you don't want, it's kind of like you're like depersonalizing it.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about a lot about visualization, and you gave an example about someone that talked about visualization in 1940, something like that. I never heard of that reference, but it was very interesting because I heard a lot of visualization from Tony Robbins. He talks a lot about that, but it was
Sure.
interesting that you brought someone that says that's like ages ago.
Oh, it's been around forever. So, I like to use the term now more. If you notice in there too in the book, using the term more now, mental movies, just
Yep.
because I think it's a little more intensive and integrates all of your senses. Because if you're saying visualization, all you're thinking about is a picture of it, but you want to really make yourself actually, feel the experience ahead of time. You can get to the point where you can taste it. And for example, when I was getting ready for a competition in powerlifting, I used to do mental movies, and that's when I kind of realized it wasn't visualization. Is when I would play a mental movie of me squatting 900. I could literally smell this guy that I trained with. He used to chew tobacco always in the gym, and you could smell it. And I remember one day when I was in a mental movie, I could smell that strong tobacco smell. So
Wow.
I got.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy. Wow, that's really deep thoughts. And by doing that, you put yourself on that moment. So when you are living that moment, it's almost like deja vu. It's almost like, wow, I've done that before, right?
100%.
And you've done that for many of your PRs, for example.
All of them. So I did it before I knew it was a thing. So it was one of those deals where I was doing it already, and I didn't have a name for it. I didn't know that this was an actual thing. I thought it was sort of like a thing that, normal people think you're crazy and kind of keep to yourself when I was in high school and stuff. And I did it before I would, I was through the shot put. So what I used to do is I kind of realized there was something to this. When I'd look out, all my best throws, I'd look out in front. Most people just enter the back of the ring, throw the shot put and leave. I'd always walk up to the front, look at a target, I wanted to hit, like just find like if there's a random blade of grass in the sand, I'm going to hit that blade of grass with a shot put. And, it helped me throw a lot farther that way.
Mm-hmm.
I started doing it with other things. And one time in high school when I was playing football, we had a hypnotist come into our coach brought a hypnotist in before one of the practices. And I was like playing linebacker, and I visualized, and actually kind of felt, so it was a mental movie, myself hitting somebody really hard and sending them to the hospital. And that day at practice, there was somebody on the team that, shouldn't have been on the team. He didn't go to the summer workouts and stuff. And like he ran the ball, and the tackle, I was playing linebacker, missed a block. It was just me and him. My helmet went right into his ribs, and literally an ambulance came. So I'm like, all right.
Oh, wow.
Or something too.
So it also worked for the negative.
Well, this is what I wanted to happen. I might get the negative for him, I guess. But,
wow, that's crazy. And it looks like you've been using this for a long time, since high school. And when did you actually discover that this was a thing? It was. Did you start researching more about it?
I started researching more about it. I read a book called. There's a book called Cybernetics. Have you read that before?
No.
I recommend reading it. And basically, what happened was, I don't know what happened, but I was like, always with sports and lifting weights, I always had the successful mindset and did these mental movies. But I don't think I had it for like the rest of the area of my life, and like with business particularly. With other areas I did, but not business. Like with sports, I was always confident. And one day I was thinking like, it would like I was thinking like, it'd be cool if I could actually get paid what I'm worth to train people. And I kind of said that out loud to myself. I'm like, that sounds like such a loser victim mentality. I can't believe it. I'd never say that in a sport, if this or that. I'm like, what am I doing here? So then I don't know how I stumbled upon it. I know what it was. I posted a video online or something right when all social media first started, like 2009. And somehow I lifted a weight and I didn't know what the weight was. And somebody wrote like, oh, that's Cybernetics. I'm like, okay,
wow.
What is this? And like, it's basically convincing yourself of something. Okay. So he wasn't exactly right in the definition, but I went and I got the book. And I was not as much of a reader then, but like, I was starting to read a lot more, and I devoured that book, and I devoured it a few times. And all of a sudden I went from like, training people, like it was like, I'm doing pretty good, okay, to like I was turning away business in like a matter of a few weeks just from that book.
That's
like
crazy.
I literally saw like everything. Like to this day, it's like,
everything that you envision is actually
actually starts happening. So it's one of those things of like, it's powerful though. So that's why I don't like go around setting like, 150 goals, somebody this or that. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. It's just, you realize at that point, it does take effort and a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing that, it like literally transformed. And I started reading more and more. I got certified in a thing called NLP. Do you know what that is? Tony Robbins started off in NLP. Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Neuro-linguistic programming. And then just started, I started getting 1 year for Christmas. My wife asked me what I wanted, and I usually don't want anything, but I'm like, I want to get hypnotherapy sessions. And,
wow.
Go in there, and this guy he's an older guy. He died like a year ago. And, I was still going to him when he moved on Skype like this. And he was cool, because mostly if you look at hypnotherapy or hypnotists, it's going to be more like people like, I want to, stop smoking. Notice I say stop smoking, not quit smoking, because quit. No one likes a quitter, right? So you don't want to tell yourself you're a quitter. You want to stop smoking. So you put there, and like, that's what it's all about, is like, I want to stop using drugs, or, stop doing some unproductive habit. But this guy was all about, taking to the next level. It wasn't like that. It was more like, okay, your life is good by society standards. How can you take it to the next level? And I studied with him, and he actually, before he died, agreed to mentor me. I was going to go out there like once a month for like 2 or 3 days to Denison, Texas, and stay out there and learn from him. But he died at the beginning of this year, and learned a ton from him. His name was Will Smith, and he wasn't famous or anything. He was he was in the process of writing a book, but I don't know if his family members or anybody alive, because I know he lived alone, so I don't know. I'd be very curious to read it because it'd be good information. But from him, I learned a lot, and just took it from there. Of like, it was cool to see what I'd always been doing, had a lot of backing, a lot of science to do it, and I actually broke a milestone with that today, as a matter of fact, this morning. So, do you know what You know what floating is? Like flotation therapy.
I heard about.
Okay, so I actually have a float tank here in my garage, and it's basically it's sensory deprivation. So you go in this like dark. It's like mine's like a giant tent sort of thing. You lay in there. It's in water with a ton of Epsom salt. You put, like, for instance, 800 pounds of Epsom salt in an area that's not too big, and you go in there and you float, and it's completely pitch black. You don't hear anything, see anything, and what it can do is, like, obviously, like in wars and stuff in the past, they've used this as a form of torture. If you stuck somebody in there for like hours and hours, but if you do it for like a half hour at a time, you can really, like, it's like you experience like time outside of like a time-space relationship. So it's really cool if you can you can like really start to visualize, hallucinate, I guess you can say that.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because there is a scene on the Stranger Things movie that is exactly like that. They put a lot of water, and Eleven gets there to almost like meditate and go back to the.
For sure.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and you do that like in your garage, very dark.
Yeah, I do that in my garage, and I used to go to a place here in South Lake, but I just got my own, so it saved a lot of time that way. And it's really expensive to do too. If you so I mean, you're gonna pay a little more to buy something, but you don't have to keep paying it monthly or anything like that. So that was real helpful. But anyways, a couple of the like the meditations, visualizations, whatever you want to call them, was what were so, like, they've been so deep that, like, I don't know how to describe it, but like your entire body goes like numb, and it's like you're like floating through space or something, and you're like experiencing this stuff. It's so real. And this morning I was doing a visualization, a mental movie, whatever you want to call it, and I got that feeling not in the water. That was the first time.
Wow. Outside
of the water, it was that real.
It probably felt really good to you when you found out about that validate all the things that you were doing since high school, because it was almost like a validation, like, well, I was
Sure.
not really going crazy. There is actually a meaning in the science background that back it up this, and the reason why I say that, because you are one of those trainers, coach, that is very strong on science. I mean, I read your books, and you always have an excellent background on science. So for you to be talking about this is because it is true. It is really a thing.
No, I appreciate it. It's one of those things of, I don't know on this particular subject where the science starts and stops exactly, because the reason this might be like hard to like do a lot of, there's a lot of studies on, like, say, like, so if someone imagines themselves doing free throws, they don't practice, they get better. There's a ton of studies to back this. So I'm not saying there's a ton. There's other ones about, like, you can get your biceps stronger if you do a mental movie of your bicep contracting. I mean, so yeah, look up mental movie, or visualization is probably the term you'd want to use in like Google Scholar. You can see stuff on this, a lot of good science on it. But then the flip side is a lot of this stuff's kind of difficult to measure fully scientifically, because it has to be somebody that's like buying into it. It's one of those deals where I'm glad there is science to back it, but I don't think it works real well if you're not buying it. So if you, like, say, for example, basketball, you want to do a mental move as yourself doing free throws perfectly, or putting in golf or something of that nature, but in your head you thought this was all nonsense, it probably wouldn't. I mean, it'd be better than nothing, I'm sure, but it would not have the same effect.
Yeah, you gotta believe. First of all, you gotta believe that's gonna work. And it comes my next question. Did you ever use this method with one of your athletes that you train, and you've seen results?
Absolutely have, and I've even hypnotized a few people. We've gotten results with it. I'm actually certified as a hypnotist. I'm not like a practicing one or anything, so I don't like taking patients or anything like that. But 100%. So that's why I put a lot of this stuff out there. So like the books and stuff are like grounded in gratitude. There's stuff about mental movies in there. So if I'm working with somebody, give them the book, and they'll they can, and if they want to pursue that, then we'll go deeper into it and absolutely help them with that. It helps a ton.
Yeah, because you are big on posting results from your athletes that are reaching the PR. So I thought to myself, well, for that person to reach a PR, and some of those athletes are remote, and you are actually working remotely with them, so you don't have really the face-to-face interaction and everything. So a lot of things that they do is based on reading what you're writing to them and trusting the process and everything. So I would imagine that to reach some of those PRs, they are implement some sort of visualization at some point.
Absolutely, there is, and 100%. And I need to start doing that a little more. As I've made YouTube videos talking about it, but maybe I'm looking to do some like tracks or something about to help people. You know what I mean? Like where you would follow, like you just put on a track, lay down, download it, and be able to follow a kind of guided deal. Because those work really well too when you have some kind of guide you along of what to not exactly like what your goal should be, but like like when to breathe, relax, that kind of thing, and all that stuff.
And the other thing that it was very interesting to me on the book is that you also talk about the fact that if you start feeling miserable, you're just gonna continue to feel miserable no matter what, because now you are on that hole and it's hard to get out. And that happened to me actually right after the surgery. The first 2 days were very painful. I had to take painkillers and everything, and I started going to that edge of depression because I was always constantly thinking negative thoughts, and it was hard to get out.
I would imagine.
Yeah,
it's momentum. You either have it going positive, or you have it you have it going, unfortunately, it goes negative too. So like, just if you think about it, if your day started off on the wrong side of the bed, and you got in an argument with this person or that person, and then it just usually spirals out of control. It's like a snowball. Where the other thing can happen too, if good things keep happening, it's like, oh man, I just hit no red lights the whole way there, and just one after another kind of lucky thing happens. It definitely, there's momentum either way.
Yeah,
but if you get in that deep bad spot, man, it's
hard. It's hard to get out. It's really hard to get out. Yeah. But at the same time, it was interesting that I think it was last week you wrote something on your Facebook. You posted a video of you doing some exercise that actually was recorded last summer, according to what you said. But you were talking about the change in your training style, that you really not pushing the heavy anymore. But for you to realize that, you had to talk to someone with a coach, or I don't remember exactly who it was, to that person to give you that spark on the idea that you start, now I realize what I'm missing, right? So even someone like you with this high level of self-awareness and everything, you still need some sort of guidance sometimes.
Absolutely.
So what was the spark that he gave it to you that you were like, okay, that's why I'm not happy?
Interesting. So it was Fred Hatfield, and he was kind of like he wrote the book Bodybuilding: A Scientific Approach back in like 1980 or so, a long time ago. And then he also wrote Powerlifting: A Scientific Approach, and he's the guy that mentored me, and he just passed away like a couple years ago, and we were doing all these seminars together. We'd done about 25 seminars together, but they were all for the most part in the US. Then all of a sudden, we were on international. Calls me up, says, I got to talk to you about doing a seminar out of the country. I'm thinking, like, okay, Quebec or Canada or something easy, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, Okinawa and then mainland Japan. I'm like, oh wow, okay. And that's before I'd really started traveling outside the country very much, with the exception of Canada and Mexico. And because I mean, going to Canada, it's like, it's not that much different going to like New York or something. It's just easy.
Yeah.
Even customs and stuff, you go right through.
Hmm.
So, I was like, okay, and go over to Okinawa, and it was like, I don't know what happened, but like I somehow slept about 45 minutes or something like that night, and I couldn't get back to sleep, and felt horrible. I'm like, man, I'm gonna finish these seminars, but the second this is over, I'm gonna change flights. I'm gonna get out of here. I can't stay over here. It's freaking me out. And he was like, no, no, no. They have all these events planned that it's considered rude to like leave, and we're gonna like tour these mountains, this and that, and that's why they're doing all the seminars up front. So the second that we're there for 2 weeks, the second week is all like fun kind of thing of like not related to the seminars. And he's like, you need to go in your room. He's like, lay down and envision yourself like somebody else looking at you and see what happens. Just be on the top of your ceiling and stare at yourself. And I did, and I felt like I was floating, kind of like I was talking about earlier, where I just felt like I was like going through space or something, and all of a sudden end up back asleep, get a good night's sleep, and felt great the next day. Woke up early in the morning. I don't know what hit me. I'm like, I just kind of hiked off this military base and ended up at some mountain and just started sprinting up the hills by myself. And like I just knew what I had found is this: I wanted to change training styles, because I'm not doing powerlifting or bodybuilding. I want to train to be like more of a tactical athlete.
That's awesome. It took you that moment to realize that.
Yeah, and that's sort of like you said. He kind of like he was really good, because it wasn't like, you need to do this, this, and this, and try this. It was more like he planted a seed, and that seed just grew.
And you said that this was like a couple years ago. No, how long was that ago?
About 4 years ago.
Okay, so when you publish that book was 2018, so you already had that experience, which makes sense. What you the way that you lay out the foundation of the book, you always lay out on the gratitude. That's why the book is called Grounded in Gratitude, and it is about perspective, right? Because when you start to put a lot of things in perspective, you start to realize that you should be grateful for what you have. And that's happened to me as well, because I start to actually watching a lot of documentaries around athletes that got hurt and how they came back. And I saw that documentary about Alex Smith, quarterback, and it was like game changing, because that guy, he was tremendous. He was 19 surgeries, and he was not complaining throughout the process. He was always very grateful. His wife said that in the middle of the moment that he almost lost his leg, he looked at her and said there were a lot of people that will be pleased to be in my place with all the things that we have. So it's all about perspective. So it's unbelievable that the guy was almost losing his leg and thinking that way.
Well, I noticed that. That's what one of the reasons I want to come on here. I noticed in your Facebook post, I liked your when you were talking about your experience coming over here from Brazil and like what you teach your kids. I really liked that. It resonated. I mean, I'm not from another country, but I liked your attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for people that are gifted to born in this place and don't understand how great they should be just to be part of this nation that gives so many opportunities to everyone. Yeah. I mean, I'm truly blessed and grateful to just to be here. But when you are in a tunnel, very dark tunnel, right after a major injury that you have to stop everything, things get really dark and it's hard to get out. Sure. I'm not sure if you ever had this feeling of not feeling so grateful and because you were in that dark moment. And how did you do to get out of there? Did you ever had this?
So everybody does, for sure. So it's just, where you're, I think it was Maxwell Maltz, the guy that wrote Cybernetics, said, like, they said, what's happiness? He said, having pleasant feelings most of the time, you know, and that's kind of like where you with gratitude is like you should be grateful most of the time, but obviously everybody slips up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, it's like, you know, you to like know, you know, you'd have to, you to experience, you know, to experience, you know, hot, you have to know what cold is type of thing. So I think there is probably, that's with everybody, I think. And to pull yourself out, you just have to, you know, put it in perspective. Usually for me with any kind of setback, it's been to focus on a different goal. So what I did, like for instance, when I did actually have elbow surgery, and what happened there was I just used that time to build my business. So it just, that's what always has helped me too, is to keep just to have a goal to focus on. That's, you know, besides gratitude, that's kind of like the main thing. If I've ever noticed a point in my life where I'm not happy, like kind of like you're saying, in a dark spot, that's what it is. There's not a clear cut goal to focus on.
Right. And that's another point that you raise in the book. Make sure that you have a very clear and well-defined goal, and write it down the specifics to not get too blurry, because there is a big difference between goal and vision, right? Vision is a little bit more blurry. I want to get there. A goal is more precise.
Well, a goal, and the thing you can do with that is also, I've found, is really, you know, write down why. You know, this is another one I learned from that hypnotist is, you know, one time for a while I was having issues sleeping. So talked to him, and he says, most people say, what do you say to yourself? Why can't I get to sleep? I said, yeah. And he said, don't say that. Say, why do I need to get to sleep? And you say, okay, I need to be rested the next day. I need to do this. I need to do that. Then you keep giving yourself reasons why. So if your goal is to make $1 million, earn $1 million next year, why do you want to do that? Do you just so you can look at your bank statements and that's going to make you feel good? Or is it you want to, you know, you want to like help families in need? You want to take vacations too. You want to spend more time with your son, whatever it is. You know, that's what's going to help you achieve that goal. If it's more detailed of why you want to achieve that goal, you know, and then also, you know, if it was a goal before and you kind of think about it, you might say, okay, that maybe that's not the best goal because I don't have a good reason for achieving it type of thing. So that's what I found helps a lot too, is not only like you're saying a clear cut goal, but then figure out why you want to achieve that goal.
Yeah. From all the athletes that you train, a lot of successful athletes in this in powerlifting mainly, the ones that you felt were able to achieve their goals as far as PR and or even competition wise, were the ones that were more were practicing more those principles of gratitude and also visualization, these type of things?
Definitely visualization. I think gratitude to an extent. I don't know if that, you know, for like actual, I've noticed that more in like the business world of people, you know, getting that way more, definitely being grateful for what you have. But at the same time, you know, it's balancing it with, they are hungry, constantly going for more, never satisfied type of thing. So that it's a tough balance to walk right there.
Well, in your opinion, when you are chasing a PR, whatever it is, a squat or a bench press or a deadlift, of course, there is a lot of leverage from your strength building over time and everything, and the mechanics to get there. But there is also a powerful aspect of your mind to acknowledge, to say, yeah, I can lift that weight, right? Because if you get the bar and you defeat right in the beginning, say that's too heavy for me, you're done.
Well, yeah, and it's one of those things. It's absolutely, and that's how you get hurt. So, you know, that's like one thing I remember before I started playing football. My dad told me, like, okay, here's what you need to know. He's like, the hardest hitters in football usually don't get hurt. I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, if you hit the hardest on the team, the odds of you getting hurt are like really low. And you'd think it's the opposite, but like it's like when you're like, oh crap, and you let up, that's when you get hurt. Same with powerlifting. If you're going for a max squat and you don't give it your all, that's when you're gonna get hurt. So there's not only like telling yourself you can lift the weight, it's just if you lose that edge, it's very dangerous, and it takes a different kind of all these sports of bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, they all take a different sort of mental toughness from one. It all takes mental toughness, but like powerlifting, you can really blow your workout if you don't hit certain weights you're supposed to hit. Or bodybuilding, if you're slightly off in that regard, but like you're prepping for a show and your nutrition was perfect, cardio was perfect, your sleep's perfect. I mean, and you miss your last set of curls, that's not going to be the end of the world. That's
right.
But then the mentally tough part is staying your diet, question, that kind of thing, or like the cardio. So then strongman, it's just, it's grueling. It's like one of those things of, okay, you're like, these events can take like a minute long, which doesn't sound super long, but when you're talking about like maximum intensity, it's insane. Like, okay, I'm going to load this sandbag over something 40 inches high as many times as I can in a minute. Yeah. I don't care how good a shape you're in. That's like crazy tiring. So, but it's heavy too. It's not just like, you're running a 5K or something. It's really heavy. So like all these sports require like a different sort of mental toughness for sure.
And mindset, yeah. Because I remember when I was pulling a truck for the first time at the destination, it was already scared because it was a truck. I never done that before, so I was very skeptical, and it was not really good pull. I did, but it was not really good. The second time, I started with a different mindset. I thought to myself, I'm gonna do it fast. I'm gonna get this as fast as I can. So it was not more about the weight; it was more about achieving the speed and get there. And I noticed that the pull was way easier. And I mean, not way easier than the first one. It was not easy, but easier than the first one. The experience was way more pleased. And the only change was my mindset.
Yeah, and that's huge because you're right. That is, if you start to really think about all that's going into it, it would be kind of crazy. Like if you fall down and he didn't hit the brakes right away, I mean, you're not going to be in a good spot.
Yeah. Same thing happened before. I remember the first time that I hit 500 on that lift. Greg was helping me, and he was screaming, yelling at me, and somehow that helped so much. Just that momentum that he was like, come on, screaming. Yeah. Because that goes to your mind. If you are silent, no one is actually rooting for you, and you start lifting and you just feel a little bit uncomfortable, you're gonna drop the bar. You're gonna keep pushing. So that's why I think that's the whole psychological aspect in lifting is tremendous.
Absolutely, 100%.
But you today, you're not working out for powerlifting or strongman or anything, but you change to some very challenging workouts. I've seen some of the workout, the sprint, and even some strongman you're still doing, throwing those kettlebells really high and everything. You're still pushing some of your limits, just in a different aspect, right?
Right. So what I did was, I told you about that time in Japan, and then I started. People were seeing it online, and people for the military and law enforcement started contacting me quite a bit to work with them. And it wasn't like I was like doing it to like, all right, I got a new business plan, so I need to start doing this to to make it look, to show everybody I know what I'm talking about, type of thing. And that's what type of, call it tactical strength conditioning. So from there, I started working with all these people, and and it just kind of evolved from there. And what was interesting about it is I put together a course for ISSA, the personal training certification, and it's on tactical strength conditioning. And when I'm writing this, I'm like, this is exactly, I'm writing this for that audience, but this is exactly how I want to train. So like, I didn't necessarily, when I first started it, have a term for it like that, but it's exactly, I want to be, basically build a move like I'm 50 pounds lighter, but have the strength, speed, and endurance have the strength of someone 50 pounds heavier, strength, speed, and endurance of somebody 50 pounds lighter was the objective.
From all the books, because you're talking about a lot of principles just now, but from all of the books that you publish, would it be the Speed Strong the closest one to that principle?
I would say Speed Strong or Tactical Strongman.
Okay, because the Speed Strong seems like is doing exactly what you just said. From looking at the chapters here, right?
You could look at also their in the Tactical Strongman. there's a program in there called Tactical PHA training. Um, that would be the other one you can make an object. You know, if you had to choose like one style, like you say you only work out a few times a week, it'd be that. So it'd be one of those two books right there. Yeah.
So, for example, for me, when I'm back and training for jiu-jitsu competitions, I think that the Speed Strong would be the best one to me. Wouldn't you think?
Well, for jiu-jitsu, you got a few choices there. You could look up that one, Grapple Strong,
Grapple Strong, yeah.
and then also again the Tactical Strongman one I think's one of the best for if you're like especially for someone like you that's doing jiu-jitsu, because your strike's already a lot higher than everybody else's, so you don't need to be like doing at the speed as much. If you had like some of the Tactical Strongman work, you could do it a couple times a week and be ready to go. Because I think if you're, how much were you deadlifting before you got injured?
500.
Yeah, so I mean you're like you probably don't really go against people stronger than you, right? Very often, if at all.
Not very much, to be honest. I'm on a super heavy division, master division, which means between 40 and 45. So usually,
what's the super heavyweight go up to?
Super heavyweight is open, right? It's from 222 pounds until 300, or whatever the weight you have. I am going to super heavy. Super heavy is up to 22, and then you have the ultra heavy. With the ultra heavy, there is no weight limit.
Okay.
So I go super heavy because then I don't need to cut a lot. I can weigh in, because you weigh in on jiu-jitsu on the day of the competition.
Yeah, for sure.
So I weigh in with the gi. That's gotta be up to 222, and I can make that weight easy with all the discipline from bodybuilding. Cutting weight is not a big problem to me. I just need to find this because I like to lift heavy, and that's just me. I love it, right? But it's counterproductive if you lift heavy all the time and then you train jiu-jitsu. It's just not really a good combo. You need speed, and you need flexibility. That's why I was wondering from all those books which ones are the best one.
So I'd say of any of those three, Speed Strong, Grapple Strong, or
Tactical Strongman.
Yeah, the Grapple Strong. For you probably don't need all that stuff in there, just because you're in a different situation than most people. Most people are a lot of them are the opposite. Not as much with grappling, but especially with like you get into striking, like they need a lot of strength work because like they haven't like been I mean, if you go to like a boxing gym or say, a lot of people don't even lift. So like you can make them really a lot better at boxing by almost doing powerlifting because they have no strength. Or someone like you would be the dumbest thing in the world because you're already way stronger than everybody else. So if you wasted valuable energy and time trying to you're not going to beat more people because you deadlift 650 instead of 550 probably.
Right, exactly.
So.
And what is the principle behind Tactical Strongman? What first of all, why is it called Tactical Strongman?
Okay, so the Tactical Strongman is called, tactical serves two words. One, like for tactical athletes, so like police and military, because this is basically the way, like I described earlier, 50 pounds lighter, 50 pounds heavier principles. That's the way they should be training. Now, there's a lot of idiocy, a lot of times in departments and things that were like, they're like, for instance, on the like to get onto like the Fort Worth gang unit or one of those things can be like they make their mile and a half time, which you're never actually going to run that far, like faster than it needs to be. So it might keep people out, but they make their 300 yard, which is generally the furthest in law enforcement. On the survey, I did a bunch of surveys for my course. That's about the farthest you're probably going to have to run your whole career. Usually it's like 50 yards or less, but the most of them, like a half of them people had gone up to like 300 yards. Point being, that's too slow. I mean, their time's too slow in that. That's a realistic distance, and you only got to do it in 60 seconds to get on the gang unit. I mean, like that's pretty damn slow for that far. So this is like the way they should be training, and for that, so that there's that tactical part. Then it's also tactical for tactics to use for strongman training. So it has different parts of like part of the book's focus on, okay, strongman competition. What do you need to do to get into competition? How do you need to train for competition? Versus then other parts are like programs aimed at like, a tactical athlete or, to work for somebody in jiu-jitsu or wrestling or something. How can you use these principles to aid you in that quest versus training for a contest? It's different.
Right.
Just because, think about it, even like for a tactical athlete, like, a large part of it could be even like for some of them, it's muscle hypertrophy because like you don't need to be like a bodybuilder, but you use some bodybuilding principles just for the sake of like, if you're, look muscular, you command a situation as a cop more easily than if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You can diffuse a lot of situations not knowing a single thing about fighting or anything just by if you got the look.
Right.
So
it's almost like the same principle of gas station ready.
Exactly. Why, especially if you're a cop, you don't want to go to that level. It's a no-win. You either do your job and risk something bad happening, or it's excessive force or something, because it'd be very that's a tough situation to get into where they have to restrain somebody. But it's not like if me or you get attacked, we can go all out to defend ourselves at that point. They can't. They have to, it's excessive force or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how. I would be very hard to operate at that kind of like, all right, I'm going just hard enough not to hurt you too bad. That would be
right.
different.
And I remember Ron Coleman talking about this, because when Ron Coleman was on the police, he said, well, nobody really messed with me. I don't know why. Of course, he was joking, right? Just the size of the guy when he was a police officer was gigantic. So he already had that visual way to stop people from doing bad things.
And he's also badass linebacker at Grambling State before that. So he's actually athletic too.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about his speed, but yeah, he was definitely athletic. And here's a great example. I during the time that I was in bed all the time, I watched his documentary on Netflix because I was with crunches all day long, couldn't walk. And when I saw him on that situation and how positive he still was after all those surgeries, I'm like, how can I be so, idiot to be complaining about my situation? Look at that guy. That guy was the best bodybuilder of all time. Now he is that way, and he's still grateful. He's still laughing and doing what he can do.
You're right. Ronnie Coleman, that's one thing you gotta admire, but he's not like the person that based his self-worth on like being big. Like, yeah, he loves bodybuilding and stuff, but he's not like, I've seen him, at the gym, right after surgery, looks like he hasn't worked out in a long time. He's just as happy as when, he's training for the Olympia.
Wow. That's amazing.
He definitely, a lot of the best bodybuilders, when even after they stop, they don't seem like, the ones I've known that have been real successful didn't play, like even like, Branch Warren, he's not like, I'm as big. He's obviously not as big as he was at one time, but he didn't base his self-worth off of how big he was. He's got like, other ventures and things going.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because it's some people, they build that identity on that frame, on that size, and when they lose that size, they just hide, right?
Oh, for sure. It was sad. Like when I was in high school, I worked at a gym, and there was a lot of bodybuilders. You'd see like, guys when they're getting their 50s and stuff, were trying to like kind of hold on and like live to what they do. So like if they used to, say do hammer curls with 75 pounds or something, they're all of a sudden, just doing like basically a power clean to get the weight up, because they used to do that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like hobble in the gym and stuff. So it definitely not a good place to be in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But there is also, again, there is how the mental aspect of it.
For sure.
Because they somehow they just build that identity, and they cannot really get rid of that identity. And age comes to everyone, man. The reality is, with time, you're not going to be able to lift that heavy anymore. It's just a fact.
Yeah, they're gonna definitely. So like I've seen it, a number of different ways. Like a lot of older people that have done real well lifting, like some real strong guys that are older, but they, it's funny you say that because the ones that like Ode Hagen and stuff, the one guys competing in the world's strongest man up to like 60 years old, he did have other ventures. He was successful outside the gym. It wasn't like I'm a strong man and like, this is all I got, so don't take it away from me. It's like, no, if I break my leg and, in a wheelchair, I got all these businesses and other things going and I'll just move on to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the thing is a lot of these guys put all their eggs in one basket. That basket breaks, instead of having something else just fall into, they're kind of like in this, warped headspace.
Yeah, it comes back to what you reflect on that Facebook post. Yeah, you need to find happiness again, and sometimes you will find happiness doing something different. It's still involved with physical activity because it's part of your life. But I was surprised when I saw you running those hills. I was like, man, this guy is fast. I was not expecting that.
It took a long time to build up to that. So it took like, I was doing, it's taken a few years to build up to that. So it just kind of like slowly progressed it. Then before I knew it, I was running real fast.
Did you drop some weight to run that fast, or you kept the same weight?
I dropped a little bit of weight to run that fast, but I don't think that wasn't so much it. It was more just getting like I got to the point where I could tell I had gotten that fast, but then I had to still build up a little more before I could actually express it. What I mean by that is like my hamstrings and stuff weren't ready to run that fast.
And the reason I ask about the weight is because I'm thinking more about the knees, right? Because since I was obese before I lost 100 pounds, and when I was 100 pounds heavier, my knees were destroyed. I just couldn't run, right? So that's why I asked you.
Well, you gotta look also with that is when you're doing like real sprints. So not like a lot of people think a sprint is like just kind of moving faster than jogging. Like a sprint, like you're moving as fast as you can. You start calculating the distance. It's not that far you're going. Like even if you do multiple reps, like
it's like 100 meters, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So if you do, if you went out there and did 10 40-yard sprints and you went all out, that'd be a really tough workout. If you really went all out. Okay. So that's 400 yards total, like you just said, where if you're doing jogging, you could get to the point where you're going 5-10 miles, 10 miles is pretty far, but most people can get up there doing 5 miles, without, pretty quickly. So like, that's a lot of mileage. You're looking at, over 5,000 yards and more closer to 10,000 yards you're doing versus 400. So even though you're moving faster, you're not doing like that much volume.
So it's not so hurtful on your knees because it's fast.
Yeah. It could be for some people. It hasn't been for me, but I'm saying that's sort of like if you're otherwise healthy, like you're not having problems, that's how you kind of get away with it, is that. And then you can also, one I like to do also is I do it as part of the year when I'm doing the sprints. Like right now I'm taking a break from them. I'll start them. I like to do them when they're warmer. I'm just get a little paranoid about when it's cold, about getting injured. And because, you have to warm up a lot longer and things like that. Mm-hmm. So one I like to do also is the sand. They have, you live in Keller, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they have the Bear Creek Park.
Yep, I know. It's an awesome park.
Yeah, that's an awesome park, and they have sand there. They have sand at another park in Grapevine. I forget what it was called, and they have the sand in that park in Colleyville too. So there's a lot of places can be sand. Then also you want to really be aware of what surface you're on. So fortunately for us in this area, we have a ton of good tracks you can use open to the public.
I did something like that when I was like 3 years ago when I went to Brazil on vacation. I was training at the beach, so I was running at the beach, which is pretty tough because the sand is pretty soft. It really tough on your quads, start to burn really fast.
Easy on your joints, so it's nice. Yeah.
And also talking about sprinters, you look to the body composition of sprinters. When it comes to a sprint, the first person that I remember is Ben Johnson. How gigantic he was, and how fast he was on 100 meters is unbelievable.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, especially the short distances, he was unbeatable.
Did you, when you start building up that speed, did you did flat first and then you start incorporating the hills? Because I noticed that you also have a lot of training doing sprints uphill, which is pretty tough. So I'm assuming that you first start flat and then
No, you want to actually go the opposite if you hadn't been sprinting, because the nice thing about going up the hill is it's you're not going quite as fast. Like your turnover is a little bit slower and things like that because you're going up a hill. It's like a resistance, so it's safer. Like you're way less likely to like tear a hamstring or something, go up a hill, because you simply you're getting resistance from the hill. So your turnover's not as fast. So it can get really. That's what I was saying before.
So you start with the hill and then you went flat.
Yep, and then went to flat sand and then flat.
Nice.
So
and the only reason you stopped during the winter is because of afraid of injury.
The what now? The winter? Yeah, choose something different for one, so I'm not like overuse and all that thing, and then also just it takes a lot longer to warm up, and like when you have to recover between sets and things like that, it can be, I just don't want to I really don't want to get injured. In my whole life, I've only jacked at my hamstring once, and it was sprinting in the wintertime, and I've been pretty paranoid since then.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, Josh, you have so much knowledge to share. The time went by really fast. I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time of your busy day to share some wisdom. And I'm loving the book. I actually got in Audible, which is pretty nice because I can listen while I'm doing my Stairmaster, and that's what I usually do. So I will say if you could put more books in Audible, it would be nice.
The only reason some of the training ones aren't is because of charts.
Oh, okay.
So like when you put a training program, you like squats, say like, 5 sets of 5, rest 120 seconds, blah, blah, blah. With
Audible, that's weird. Yeah,
it's weird on Audible. So I got to figure out a way around that. Otherwise, they'd all be on there.
Yeah, Audible is great. I really enjoy. And since I have a subscription, I can just with one click get the book and start listening right away.
Perfect.
Yeah, that book is great. But I'm going to make sure to get the other ones probably on Kindle. Because they are available on Kindle Unlimited, which is also pretty cool.
Yeah, how does that work? You get like one a month or something?
It's a subscription base. You get more than one a month. I think that depends on the plan, but I think it's more than one a month. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, my friend. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for sharing everything, and keep up the great work. A lot of people look after you and the things that you do.
Thanks, Yuri. I appreciate you having me on.